Hello, my name is Albert Garcia, and I'm a librarian with the Contra Costa County Library. And thank you for being here for today's program. And thank you to the League of Women Voters and CCTV, our partners in presenting this program series. This program does have a Spanish interpretation, and I'm now going to invite our Spanish interpreter, Vanessa Cardenas, on to explain how to turn on the Spanish audio. Vanessa?
Thank you, Albert. Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros. En esta reunión, ustedes tendrán la oportunidad de tener acceso a la interpretación al español. Solo necesita presionar el símbolo terráqueo en su pantalla o puede buscar los 3 puntitos para seleccionar el idioma al español. Estamos a sus órdenes. Gracias por unirse a nosotros. Thank you and back to you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Before I hand it over to the League, I do want to talk a little bit about the library system and the services that we offer. The Contra Costa County Library is happy to connect you with our resources, services, and materials at all 26 of our branches. Access more than 1 million physical items, including international language collections, and thousands of digital materials 24/7 at ccclib.org. Visit any library to use our public computers, printers, and free Wi-Fi. You can also visit one of our branches with laptops for on-site use or check out a Wi-Fi hotspot for 3 weeks. Contra Costa County Library's adult literacy program trains and supports volunteer tutors to deliver basic literacy instruction to adults throughout the county. Visit our website and sign up for a digital library card today. Thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the League.
Thanks, Albert. I appreciate that. I want to say hello to everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sean Gilbert. On behalf of the Contra Costa County Library, the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley, the League of Women Voters West Contra Costa County, and Contra Costa Television, welcome to this Community Conversations webinar, Shock and Awe, Rising Costs of California Fire Insurance. Before we begin, let's review a few housekeeping items. This is a Zoom webinar, so audience members' microphones are muted and videos are turned off. If you have questions for the moderator or panelists, please submit them by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Today's webinar is being recorded live. It will be posted later to the YouTube channels of the Contra Costa County Library and the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley. Site addresses for those YouTube channels will be displayed on screen at the end of the program. Additionally, Contra Costa Television is broadcasting today's webinar and will be rebroadcasting the program. The dates and times will be posted on the screen at the end of the webinar. Contra Costa Television is available to watch on Comcast Channel 27, AT&T Uverse Channel 99, Astound Channel 32, and online at ContraCostaTV.org. The contact information for today's panelists, along with the date and subject of our next community conversation, will also be posted at the end of this program. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights and to ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. The League empowers voters and defends democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the local, state, and national levels. The League of Women Voters of the United States believes that a democratic government depends upon informed and active participation at all levels of government. We invite you to join the League of Women Voters and support its work. You can join the League by visiting lwvc.org/join. It is now my sincere pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Contra Costa County Fire Chief Louis Broschard. Chief Broschard oversees one of the largest fire districts in the state of California. His fire service career spans more than 29 years in both small and large fire service organizations. His experience include positions of responsibility in emergency operations, fire prevention, and executive leadership. Since joining the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District in October of 2007, he has served as fire inspector, fire prevention captain, fire marshal, assistant fire chief, deputy fire chief, and now holds the position of fire chief. Chief Broschard holds a Bachelor of Science in Managerial Economics from the University of California, Davis, and a Master's of Business Administration from JFK University. Thank you, Chief Broschard, for being today's moderator, and I turn the program over to you.
Well, thank you, Sean, and good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here moderating what I think is a very important topic, a timely topic, and I think we have a great panel set up for this afternoon to give you some good information and insight as to where things sit right now with the dilemma regarding home insurance. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, Stephen Young. Stephen Young is Senior Vice President and General Counsel of the Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of California. He provides counsel on all corporate legal matters affecting the nonprofit trade association and its subsidiaries, represents the interests of independent insurance agents and brokers at regulatory hearings conducted by the Department of Insurance and other state agencies, coordinates the association's involvement in litigation affecting insurance producers, provides legal research and support to the association's legislative advocates, and provides legal information to member agencies and brokerages. Stephen has served on the Insurance Law Committee of the State Bar of California, was a charter member of the Agent and Broker Advisory Committee to the California Insurance Commissioner, and is a frequent speaker and author on legal and regulatory developments affecting the business of insurance. Stephen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chief Broschard, very much. And I'd like to express my appreciation to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to make a few comments about the property insurance marketplace in California. And I'm honored to appear with such distinguished panelists as well. First, I work for an organization of independent insurance agents and brokers. They are called independent because they have the ability to do business with multiple competing insurers. Insurance companies typically sell their policies one of three ways, either through their own dedicated agency force. Companies like State Farm, Allstate, Farmers are examples of those companies. Sometimes companies will sell direct to the public via website or via 800 phone numbers where there aren't any agents. There are just employees of the insurance company. And then independent agents, the group I work for, have this contractual freedom to represent multiple insurance companies and are typically in better position to search the marketplace to find the best combination of coverage, price, and other factors that are important to consumers. I'll tell you that our membership in California reports to us that this is the worst, the most severe availability crisis that any of them have experienced at any point in their careers. For reasons I'll explain in just a moment, we're starting to see improvement, but right now we're in year 4 or 5 of this absolute disaster from an insurance agent's perspective, as well as from a consumer's perspective. In our experience, insurance companies are actually pretty skilled at assessing risk and pricing it. But in order to be willing to issue policies, they need two things. They need, one, the opportunity to charge adequate rates, adequate in terms of their sufficiency from an actuarial perspective to cover the losses that are expected. And number two, when they have to make changes, they need those rate changes to take effect on a timely or prompt basis. The fact is that insurance companies in California have not gotten either one of those things for over 30 years. And that's because of a law, Proposition 103, which was created and enacted by voters in 1988, which gave politicians the ability to control very largely what insurance companies charge and when they could make changes. Now, frankly, California consumers, and I know this will be small consolation for all of us, but California property owners have enjoyed some of the lowest property insurance rates in the entire country for over 30 years. And even though the rates have not been regarded as accurate, and even though rate increases have been delayed, insurance companies have been able to sort of live with that environment because property insurance historically has been very predictable and has been very consistent from one year to the next. That all started to change in California and around the world, really starting in 2017. And there are a variety of factors, all of which were hitting at the same time. The first and the most significant is global warming. You can pick any spot on our planet right now and see the impact of dramatically changed and more severe weather patterns, whether by drought, whether by flood, whether by convective storm, stronger, more frequent hurricanes, melting of glaciers, you name it, all over the planet, weather is changing dramatically. And the weather scientists tell us that it's not going to stay this way, it's going to get worse over time. At the same time that was really beginning to affect all of us, especially in the western part of the United States, we saw evidence that the public utilities had deferred or neglected maintenance of their high voltage transmission power lines, so that when a storm would hit, these wires would go down and ignite these massive fires. The utilities are finally correcting that, but there have been criminal negligence charges filed against the utilities for those efforts. At the same time, it's clear now that we have neglected the health of our forests. Both federal parklands, state parklands, even municipal parklands have millions, literally millions of dead trees that, when a fire starts, create this immense amount of fuel that create these storms that some of our other panelists will talk more about in just a moment. And finally, there has been very significant growth over the last 2 or 3 decades in what are called the WUI zones, the wildland urban interface. There are just a lot more people and a lot more buildings in these really desirable areas to live. Tahoe, Sonoma, Napa, certainly Contra Costa County knows all about that as well. All of these things have hit at the same time. And the thing is that the factors in California that we're dealing with, that I've just enumerated, they exist in all of the Western states, but only California has had the availability crisis that we are experiencing because of the regulatory system that we've had, which was designed to suppress rates, slow down rate increases. Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara, to his credit, has recognized that the rules that were adopted 30 years ago no longer work for consumers in this type of environment. And so for the last 2 years, the Department of Insurance has been working to modernize and reform the regulatory system, always with the eye toward consumer protection, but also recognizing that there needs to be a competitive insurance marketplace in order for consumers to benefit. So they've done a number of things, which I'll enumerate here very briefly. Number one, California has been the only state in the country that did not recognize insurance companies' reinsurance costs. The first rule of insurance is you want to spread risk. And it's very common, especially when we're talking about the magnitude of losses that we are here, for insurance companies to cede or divide out a portion of their risk with other insurance companies around the globe. That can be very expensive. And California has long pretended that those reinsurance costs simply didn't exist. So the commissioner has moved toward giving insurance companies credit for their California-based reinsurance costs. A second thing they've done is to authorize the use of catastrophic risk modeling in rate making. Again, California has been the only state that required insurance companies to base their rates solely on their own individual historic loss experience going back in time. not based on the risks that insurance companies were being asked to write prospectively. So these catastrophic modeling will enable rates to become far more accurate and far more commensurate to the risk. At the same time, the commissioner has pledged to speed up rate approvals. It can take up to 2 years or longer for insurance companies to get an answer on rate changes. And a rate request that is delayed that long is effectively a rate request denied. And finally, the commissioner has taken a number of steps to shore up the financial solvency and strength of the California FAIR Plan. And I'll talk a little more about the FAIR Plan in just a second. But the commissioner understood that in giving insurance companies these new rating tools, that one, prices were going to have to go up. But number two, he required insurance companies, as a condition of using these tools, to make commitments to start writing more insurance in areas of the state that are underserved currently, or by taking policies out of the FAIR Plan. And I'm happy to tell you that we are slowly but surely starting to see these reforms work. Companies have received the commissioner's approval to begin using new rates as part of their plan to start writing more and more insurance in the state. So we are cautiously optimistic that as 2026 continues to unfold, we will see more companies beginning to come back to the marketplace. I say that with a massive asterisk and the caveat that any number of things could happen to screw that up. Number one, this is an election year. And we all know how politicians act in election years. There are already legislative proposals that could completely sabotage what the commissioner is trying to do. There is litigation over certain aspects of the commissioner's plans that is not yet resolved. There are a variety of issues with the California FAIR Plan itself, which I'll just mention here briefly. Many of you listening to this may be insured by the FAIR Plan right now, so you may know this already. But the FAIR Plan is not an insurance company. It's not even part of state government. It is an involuntary association that was created in the 1960s by the legislature, designed to provide minimal, basic fire insurance, just basic property insurance to consumers who could not get a policy otherwise in the marketplace. It started out being a plan that was sold primarily just in inner city Los Angeles following the Watts riots. And over time, it was expanded into other parts of the state, including brush areas, etc. But it was always been intended and has always been structured as a market of last resort. Only if you couldn't get insurance elsewhere could you get a FAIR Plan policy. You all know that the FAIR Plan has effectively become one of the only places to get insurance in the last several years, again, because of this rate environment where insurance companies could not get adequate rates, could not get timely rate decisions, but were facing absolutely catastrophic losses they had never anticipated before, that we started seeing in 2017 with the Paradise fires, with the Coffee Park disaster in the Santa Rosa area, and up and down the state from there, even before last January's absolute disaster in Los Angeles County. The FAIR Plan premiums are supposed to fully cover losses, but if they don't, and they frequently have not, then the insurance commissioner is authorized to require insurance companies to make up the difference. And last February, the commissioner issued a $1 billion assessment on all property insurers in the state, which is allocated by market share. So State Farm, for example, which is the largest homeowners insurer in California, wrote almost 20% of the market. Their share of that assessment was $200 million plus. And so there's litigation right now over whether or not the commissioner has the authority to allow insurance companies to essentially pass on a portion of that assessment to policyholders. So we're looking very carefully at that litigation, because should the commissioner's authority be overturned, that could send a signal to insurance companies that they can't come back right away, at least, because the FAIR Plan is so heavily overexposed right now to catastrophic wildfire loss. So in essence, or to just recap, California is in the midst still of one of the worst availability crises ever, but we believe the commissioner deserves credit, if belatedly, for recognizing that the outdated regulatory rules that had been in effect and had benefited consumers for a long time were no longer working, and we are beginning to see, slowly but surely, evidence that these reforms are starting to work. Again, it's a tremendous honor to be part of this panel. I look forward to hearing from our other panelists and answering any questions that may arise toward the end of our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that update and insight. Our next presenter is Emily Rogan. Emily is the Senior Program Officer for a nonprofit organization called United Policyholders. Emily oversees that organization's Roadmap to Recovery and Roadmap to Preparedness programs, educating homeowners and renters on insurance issues that arise before and after disasters. Emily, welcome.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you for having me and United Policyholders here. I just want to say that I'm so glad that everyone is taking the time to talk about a subject that we've had to pay more attention to over the last few years. So I like to get started by showing pictures of United Policyholders and our work to tell the story that we are a nonprofit organization. It's a really important point as I go through this presentation, because we don't sell or take money from insurance companies. We are a nonprofit information resource for you, the people, the policyholders. I mentioned the three programs because they're all intertwined and inform the work that we do. I'm here to talk about our preparedness information and a little bit of our advocacy work as well, and that's informed by the work that we do after disasters, helping people navigate the process and sharing what people wish they would have known about their insurance beforehand, and really how we can strengthen the marketplace and strengthen consumer protections so that your insurance is there when you need it. Steve mentioned a lot about how we got here. And what homeowners know is that really options are few and prices are high, right? So a lot of this is also because we know that there's more data about your home, more data about your community, and more data about what kind of climate risks are out there. And so as insurance companies have more data, they're able to get a bigger and more full view of what risk is out there. We know that there is an increase in costs as well, both costs of what it would cost to rebuild a house, but also the cost for insurance companies around reinsurance, as we heard, and all of these costs make things more expensive. And then there's also more disasters that are happening, right? An increase in frequency and scope of whether it's a wildfire event or whatnot, of the amount of damage that can be caused after a disaster. But with all these factors, what we're seeing is that insurance companies are being pickier, and they're choosing the homes that they want to insure. There are less options for homeowners. We see lots of homeowners, as we heard, are going to the FAIR Plan. Some insurance companies are coming back to the market, but sometimes it's not fast enough, right? If sometimes the cost of it is too expensive that homeowners are going bare. So that's kind of, what we're hearing, what we're seeing on the ground. But what lies ahead with the sustainable insurance strategy and everything we just heard is that we're hoping to see more availability in the insurance marketplace in California. So more insurance companies offering or picking up homeowners out of the FAIR plan, more access to insurance, but currently that's not having an effect on the affordability. So it's a two-pronged beast that we're dealing with here, two-headed beast. It's availability and affordability. And affordability will only improve if we do things to reduce the risk in our community and increase mitigation efforts for our individual home. And that is one of the biggest things that you as a homeowner can do in order to have the cost of your home go down, but also have more options in the availability space, right? We offer a lot of resources for what to do if you are dropped by your insurance company. We know this is happening up and down the state still, and the main thing you can do is start shopping right away. It's a California law that you get 75 days notice to before your current policy will expire. And what we're seeing is that homeowners need that full amount of time in order to place replacement coverage on their home. So really, if you get a non-renewal letter, we want you to start shopping, right? So, and you can do that by finding an independent broker who can shop multiple policies from different insurance companies. And that's a really important piece because they will be able to do the legwork for you in some ways. They know who is riding in your area and can really help put that coverage in place as soon as possible. Your FAIR plan option is your option of last resort. But we are in some ways lucky to even have this option in California. Not every state has an insurer of last resort. But if you do land in the FAIR plan, we also want you to keep shopping. When your FAIR plan policy is going to come up for renewal, again, have a relationship with an insurance professional and an independent broker that can help pull you out of the FAIR plan as the insurance companies start opening up and start taking on more business. That's a really important piece. We don't want you to land in the FAIR plan and then say, oh, this is where I'll be for the remainder of my life in this home. And then for everybody, be prepared to make risk reduction home improvements. Whether your insurance company is going to require you to replace your roof or do X, Y, and Z, or be proactive, it will make you a more desirable customer for insurance companies and also reduce your risk of whether it's a wildfire or other climate event. The other little piece I wanted to mention here is that there are many different kinds of insurance companies. And so this is important because we are seeing less options in the admitted market. And that is your name brand insurance companies that almost everybody knows and you can rattle off. And sometimes it's just a captive agent. So the insurance company agent works for that company. They're an employee, right? And they can only sell you that kind of policy. There are independent brokers that can also shop the non-admitted market. And that's an option as well, but they are less regulated and they don't necessarily have a financial backstop offered by the government. We're getting kind of in the weeds, but admitted companies have more protections in terms of financial protections and then also the language in the policies, the non-admitted insurance companies and insurance policies. There's also the FAIR plan, as we were talking. It's got a $3 million maximum on the dwelling portion of the claim. And then also, Steve mentioned it's bare bones, and that's a really important point that out of the box, it is extremely bare bones. And you do have to add a difference in condition policy and an extra layer of protection in order to have it look something like your standard homeowner's policy. So there's more work to be done if you land in the FAIR plan. And then a reminder, if you do have a loan on your home and your insurance lapses or you aren't able to find replacement coverage, your insurance company, if they've dropped you, your mortgage company will put insurance on your home, but it's for the loan amount. It is not to protect you as the homeowner in any way. It is to protect their mortgage amount, and it's often quite expensive. So that is another type of insurance, but you don't want to assume that if your mortgage company has placed insurance for you, that it is the protection that you need in order to really cover your asset. And then no matter which insurance company, if it's someone new, it's really important to check the financial strength of that company. We really want to make sure that, part of the job of the Department of Insurance is to make sure that the market is healthy and that insurance companies are healthy when they're selling insurance. And you can check the financial strength if you are looking at options that you've never heard of. And then again, this is just a sample declarations page. Y'all should be fairly familiar with your insurance declarations page, but with the California Fair Plan, you do have to opt in to extras. And so there are extras here. Replacement cost coverage for your dwelling and contents. That's extremely important. Fair rental value, that is money that you can use for your temporary living expenses. You can increase that up to 20%. Code upgrade coverage, you can increase that. Adding debris removal coverage, all these things you have to add. That is why it's so important to work with a professional to make sure that the boxes, if it's your primary residence and it's your biggest asset, and you land in the FAIR plan, that you have something that looks the way that it will work for you if something bad happens. And then going back to risk reduction and mitigation measures, we'll hear more about this, but experts are in agreement that there are things you can do to reduce your risk. And in that sense, insurance companies are being required now to offer a discount on the wildfire portion of your premium if you do things to make this happen. So there are discounts that are available if you have the California Fair Plan. If you are interested in wildfire prepared home certification, remember these are also avenues to getting access to other insurance options that are out there and to reducing your premiums. So we want you to look at these things not only in the benefits of reducing your risk for wildfire, but also the benefits that they will have on your insurance. And the thing to keep in mind too is that we want this mindset of wildfire preparedness, especially around your home, but also keep in mind that we're in storm season. If we get another winter storm and say your fence blows down, you also might want to think about replacing it in a more wildfire risk reduced way. So if it's so we'll hear different examples of it later on, but if your wood fence blows down, replace it with a non-combustible fence, and that could also get you a discount on your insurance and make your home safer. So that's one example that I wanted to share because it's really important that we look at wildfire preparedness throughout the year. There's no season anymore for wildfire. It is year round. And as we had just commemorated the anniversary of the LA fires, remember that this is something that we want to have in our minds year round and work towards checking things off the list to make our homes safer year round. It doesn't all have to be done at once, but any movement you make towards a wildfire prepared home will get you there faster if you're required to do it in order to keep your insurance. And we are making progress. So just last week, the Department of Insurance put out a press release, and it mentioned that 6 insurance companies are opening up coverage again. So Farmers, Mercury, CSAA, USAA, Pacific Specialty, and California Casualty. These are 6 companies that are making progress in opening up in California. CSAA is also committing to renew policies for up to 3 years if you receive the wildfire prepared home certificate. These are commitments from insurance companies that if you as the homeowner are taking steps to reduce your wildfire risk, that they are partnering in these ways. And we want to see more of this, and we want to see it published in a place where homeowners can look and see, what can they do? What's the discount being offered? And, and which insurance companies are opening up in their area. And we're not quite there yet, but we're moving in that direction. And we want to see more of that as well. And then finally, affordability strategies, as I mentioned, right now the marketplace is focusing on availability. That still leaves us homeowners paying the price, right? Paying the price tag, and it might feel pretty unaffordable. But when we're talking about affordability, we're not talking about necessarily, bargain insurance. We're saying, can I even afford to pay this bill? So the first thing you can do is ask for what discounts are available, especially around wildfire risk reduction, because what we're seeing is that it's a changing marketplace right now, and insurance companies are changing. They're applying for different different rate. They're apply with their rate changes. They are also filing for what discounts are associated with that. So always ask for what discounts are available. We're even seeing pretty large discounts with water shutoff valves, which have nothing to do with wildfire, but are one avenue for opening up coverage and keeping that cost down. Bundling is always a great piece there. Working with an independent agent or broker, someone who can be proactive and tell you when something's opening up and hopefully place you with something else. Raising your deductible is the number one thing you can do to reduce the amount that you pay. It will also make you less likely to file small claims, and that's another one. The less you file small claims, the more you can absorb yourself. That's a really big piece to not being dropped by your insurer. And then hardening your home and creating defensible space, anything you can do to make it worth it. So yes, it's worth it. Insurance is still the number one source of money that people need after disasters. And then finally, we have a survey to help us keep our fingers on the pulse of how much things are going up and that sort of thing. And then here's the resource that will be included on the slide. If we have short little videos, if you wanted to hear this presentation in maybe a shorter animated form. And then we also have the long versions. If you're like, wow, that was so great, I need to hear the 95-minute version, you're in luck. We have that on our website as well. So thank you so much, and I look forward to answering questions in the Q&A.
Thanks, Emily. And that suggestion on replacing your fence with a non-combustible fence when the opportunity arises is fantastic. Next, we have Chris Backman. Chris Backman is an assistant fire chief and the fire marshal for Contra Costa County Fire. He has 30 years of fire service experience, including 19 years as a chief officer in Missouri, Indiana, and here in California. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Eastern Illinois University and the designations of fire marshal and chief fire officer from the Center for Public Safety Excellence. In 2019, he earned a master's degree in emergency management and disaster preparedness from Georgetown University. The program included 5 residencies with worldwide travel to Washington, D.C., Hawaii, Paris, Geneva, and London to evaluate foreign policy and community resilience in comparison to best practices in the United States. This is not part of his bio, but I'm going to take the liberty and let you know that Chris is at the tip of the spear here in Contra Costa County, working with cities, other fire agencies, state resources, and others to mitigate hazards, use Measure X dollars and other things to make a difference out there. So he's very much the subject matter expert for us when it comes to wildfire mitigation. And I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Chief Backman. Chris, you got it.
Thank you. The topics I'm going to cover today for fire-related topics include fire hazard severity zones, state regulations, defensible space, insurance reductions that are available, wildfire prepared certification, and the fire mitigation efforts that we are currently taking. So first, we'll start out with fire hazard severity zones. I have a short video here that's going to show a the local responsibility area swipe tool. So in spring of 2025, CAL FIRE came out with new updated maps for the local responsibility area. If you look on the right, that's the 2009 fire severity zones that existed, and the 2005 shows what they are today. This swipe tool is available on our website. If you go there, you'll be able to, and go under fire prevention, and then click the fire maps. You'll be able to use this tool to see how the different fire hazard severity zones have changed. We adopted these LRA maps on May 20th, 2025, and they went in effect on June 20th. So defensible space is identified and is only required if you are in the very high fire hazard severity zone, which on this map is in the red. If you're in the moderate or high, then that's just a designation that's been given to you. Although the California WUI code that just came out January 1st does identify that if you're in the high or very high, that additional new construction requirements do apply. But as far as existing homes, defensible space inspections only apply to residents' homes that are in the very high fire hazard severity zone, which on that map is in the red. So what is a defensible space inspection? It's where an inspector comes out and based on the standards and guidelines set by the state, we do a defensible space inspection, which is up to 100 feet around your house. And we have a brochure that's actually in a Google folder. At the very end of my presentation, I'll have a QR code that you can scan and have access to all these documents that I'm discussing during my presentation. So a defensible space inspection done by an inspector would identify where you've passed and if there's any areas of improvement that are required for you to correct. Notes will be identified with that, along with pictures of what that violation is. We're currently out educating the community with these inspections and providing material. So let's look at Zone 0 versus Zone 1, 2, and 3. So currently, Zone 0 is not in effect for new construction because those regulations are still in draft format. New regulations are anticipated to be out in March with a new draft proposal. Several draft versions have been submitted, but they haven't finalized one that they've sent on to the Board of Forestry to adopt. So as of right now, we're still going off of the picture on the right, which is just Zone 1 and 2. Zone 1 is 0 to 30 feet, and Zone 2 is 30 to 100. The new regulations for Zone 0 will be that 0 to 5 feet, and that's going to identify of nothing combustible in that Zone 0 or that 0 to 5 feet. Again, this requirement for existing homes in the local responsibility area is only for new construction homes initially once it's adopted. And after it's adopted, existing homes would have 3 years to make those changes. So we're at least 3 years out from when those new regulations come out for any existing homes. We anticipate those regulations, the draft proposal will be out in March, and it might be adopted as soon as maybe July 1 of this summer. But I wanted to explain the difference between Zone 0 and Zone 1 and 2. Because right now only Zone 1 and 2 is in effect because they're still working on the Zone 0 regulations. So required discounts from insurance companies. This was briefly discussed by Emily with the wildfire prepared certification. In addition to that, there's also mandatory discounts if your house is in a Firewise community that's in good standing. The other thing is your community listed or your city listed on the Fire Risk Reduction Community List, other known as FRCL. So in 2024, the current Fire Risk Reduction Community List was only 50 communities statewide, and there's attachment of those few communities, in which only 3 agencies in Contra Costa County were actually on that. Moving forward, on July 1 of 2026, all the fire departments in Contra Costa County have applied to be on this updated list, and we anticipate they'll all be on there. So we'll be pushing on information as that new list comes out July 1, and we anticipate all the fire departments throughout the county should be on that list, which would allow our residents to be eligible for additional discounts, along with if you're a Firewise community. I do also have information on wildfire prepared and how to do that in the Google folder that you'll have access to at the end of my presentation. In there, I also have the administrative law filing from CDI, which talks about these regulations that insurance companies are supposed to give discounts for. And if you look on page 9 of that, it even includes the discussion of your risk score reporting and how they're supposed to provide that to you within certain timeframes of renewal or non-renewal notices. So what is Contra Costa County Fire doing? We are overseeing the mitigation program for the entire county. This is funded through Measure X funding. Approximately $5 million a year goes towards this funding to fund our hand crew and do mitigation work in both fire season and out of fire season. This map shows different programs that we're doing, whether it's a community shipping day, evacuation route cleanup, Firewise strategic plan projects, low income exterior hazard, shaded fuel breaks, and vegetation management and fuel reduction, including the removal of dead trees. And we document this of both applied applications and applications that we have or projects that we have completed. Again, more information is also available in the Google folder as a resource you can look up for a later time. So how do we determine which areas to mitigate? We have the entire county fuel modeled at the 5-meter level. This specifically allows us to have our own wildfire hazard map based on a variety of different inputs. This was done through our CAL FIRE grant, and we're able to provide detailed parcel information for open space, and we're able to use this around subdivisions. If you look at that red line, that identifies that 100-foot barrier of that defensible space. The orange line is at zone 1, which is 0 to 30 feet. So it tells us what is the predicted flame length behind the subdivision in the open space if we're going to focus on mitigation efforts there. We share these with Firewise communities and neighborhoods as they're trying to identify areas that maybe they should consider doing fuel reduction work in. If we're doing the work through Measure X and we go out and create this fuel break behind a subdivision, we're also mapping that. We call it a pre-plan. That way, this information is available to our first-in firefighters or the engine companies, so they know that an additional fuel break's been created behind these homes to create an anchor point, or maybe provide us a little more time before that fire is going to come from the open space and hit their backyards. And after doing this, we're following the CAL FIRE Fire Mapper or CAL Mapper format. We quickly learned from them the importance of mapping these fuel breaks, that insurance companies are starting to take this information and include it in their catastrophic models. So we're following CAL FIRE's lead with CAL Mapper and doing the same thing. We're uploading this information into a database called Landfire. And what we've added is not only the acres we've done, the year it was completed, and the name of the project, but we're also adding now the type of mitigation work that was performed. Was it mastication, limbing and thinning, goat grazing, or mowing and disking? Along with how do we dispose of that vegetation? Did we chip and broadcast? Did we pile burn it? Did we lop and scatter? Did we haul it off? And the reason is each of these have a different value in the catastrophic models that the insurance companies are running. So we're making this information available because these fuel breaks are very valuable and the insurance companies recognize that, so they can include that during their modeling. We continue to do this countywide, and as the goal in the future is to also make this available on our website so residents can see the work that we've done. But we've already uploaded all of last year's fuel breaks and mapping into the database so insurance companies have access to it. And in closing, here's the QR code for everything I've discussed, along with the PDFs of all the information that I mentioned. This is a Google Drive access, so after you access this folder, make sure you're downloading the content, not just adding it to your favorites, because the link will break in a week or two. And we'll show one more slide, so it will look something like this when you get to that Google folder. And these are all the different PDFs that I've mentioned that you'll be able to have access to download, which includes my presentation today, along with a very good California Department of Insurance updated presentation that was provided back in October with a lot of the information that's already been presented today. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, here's the QR code, and I look forward to answering any questions afterwards in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that, and appreciate having that QR code for people to get even more information. Our next presenter is Marc Evans. Marc began his community wildfire prevention and preparation activities in 2020, immediately after retiring from a 40-year career in the oil and gas industry. He helped start a Firewise neighborhood in North Orinda and joined the Orinda Firewise Council, an all-volunteer community organization coordinating wildfire education and outreach across 20-plus Firewise neighborhoods. In 2022, Orinda Firewise Council transitioned to the Moraga Orinda Firewise Network, and Marc is currently the Moraga Orinda Firewise Network Coordinator. He is also the Firewise USA Regional Coordinator for this area, working directly with CAL FIRE and the National Fire Protection Association. Marc spearheaded the effort to start the FireSafe Moraga Orinda nonprofit in 2023 and is currently the president. In 2025, FireSafe Moraga Orinda and Moraga Orinda Firewise joined forces, allowing private fundraising to help Firewise neighborhoods with education and outreach activities ranging from local safety fairs to neighborhood block parties. The goal is to create a sustainable wildfire prevention and preparation community organization that closely collaborates with the Moraga Orinda Fire Protection District, the City of Orinda, and the town of Moraga to make the community safer from wildfire. Marc, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chief Backman. So I'm a volunteer, and what we do here and we do across Contra Costa County is help others prepare for wildfire. A quick background, I don't see the slides up, but if you see them, okay. The slides, the background is that Firewise started back in 2002. A little bit of history in the 90s, but essentially the National Fire Protection Association, along with a bunch of forest professionals, started this program, which is a volunteer community organization. It is focused on education and outreach, meaning we share information and help residents prepare for wildfire via defensible space, home hardening, and emergency preparedness and response. And of course, we now also help people with understanding home insurance topics that Emily spoke about, and basically just try to help people prepare for wildfire. Contra Costa County has 111 recognized Firewise neighborhoods, and California over 1,500. As you can probably imagine, in the last couple of years, this has significantly increased. I just want you to know that your local fire department across the county, and Fire is the largest, but there's other fire departments such as Kensington and San Ramon Valley and Moraga Orinda Fire District. They are working with you and working with our Firewise neighborhoods to help homeowners prepare their homes for wildfire. So what I recommend you do is look on your local fire department's website. I know Fire has a lot of information that can help you understand what you can do. Everything from member-resistant vents, the assessments that were mentioned, as well as potential local grants. What I want to emphasize is, even though this is a community organization, your fire district or department is essential, and they are definitely subject matter experts in preventing fire and responding to fire. But what this program does is help you as a community organize and develop your own expertise and share that expertise across your community. Next slide, please. In addition to Firewise, there's also several FireSafe councils in Contra Costa. Diablo FireSafe has been around for, I think, 20 years. And West Contra Costa County has been around for a couple of years, as well as MOFD. The other thing I want to point out is there's a number of FireSafe councils across the state, and we're fortunate that a nearby one in Marin, known as FireSafe Marin, has been doing this for multiple years and are really a good resource in combination with your fire district about wildfire prevention education. Next slide. So I just wanted to show that, we are a pretty big county, and so we're stretched out across a couple of fire districts. As mentioned earlier, Contra Costa Fire District covers the largest portion of the county, and as such has more challenging, in my opinion, time because they're working with different cities and ultimately a bit of different risk. But the three largest areas that have, and Fire Marshal Backman mentioned the wild urban interfaces, are Kensington, Lafayette, and Moraga and Orinda. So these are areas that are grown up over time, back when it was quite wooded, and then and essentially before we had significant wildfires, and with the climate change. But as you all know, since the Oakland fire from '99 onward, the risk has just gone up, and more people like to live in these sorts of neighborhoods. So a lot of the focus on Firewise is sort of trying to help organize these types of neighborhoods to work together to improve their community together, improve their evacuation, all the different aspects to it. So there's a lot of information out there, but ultimately, if you would like to learn more about Firewise, first and foremost, check your fire department or fire district's website. They have resources that can help you, as well as my contact information is out there. And we've been collaborating across the county, definitely Lafayette and El Sobrante, El Cerrito, and sharing information and trying to help people use the Firewise USA program to their advantage. And then the last slide, just to kind of show you how it's set up. So this is kind of the groupings of where the Firewise neighborhoods are. What's interesting is the Firewise neighborhood can be in size, can range anywhere from 8 to 2,500. So this isn't always really tells you what it is, but the number of different neighborhoods is an indicator of probably the higher risk of the potential wildfire in your area. I look forward to answering any questions and additionally helping you, if I can, learning more about Firewise. Thank you.
Marc, thank you, and thanks for illustrating the effort that's been put forth in many of our communities to increase awareness through the use of the Firewise communities. It's a really important function to get like-minded people together to try and do good work to reduce fuels and mitigate risk, not just on one property, but on a community-wide perspective, which I think is really what the insurance companies are looking at is community-wide issues, not just individual properties. So appreciate your help and your effort in that regard. All right, everybody, we're going to start to move into the Q&A session and give you a minute or two to put some questions in the chat. Before I do that, I just want to take a moment and sort of branch off of something that was talked about earlier, and Emily had mentioned this topic, and it was about making improvements to your home and hardening your home. And much of what the current regulations are being discussed over are making these things requirements of new homes for sure, and over time of existing homes. And I just want to take that to the next level and give you my perspective that it is incumbent on everybody to take steps to protect your home. I'll put it to you this way. Your home has to be a fortress against fire, a fortress against ember cast, a fortress against wind-driven fire incidents. It has to stand alone. And the reason why it has to stand alone is like Lahaina or Palisades or Eaton. Some of us have been down there, and Chris Bachman, who you heard from, was there during the Eaton and Palisades incident, working in an overhead position, supporting the incident. I went down there a few months later just to check things out and see, what I could glean from that. And I would tell you that it was very evident that physics and science were at hold. Luck has very little to do with whether or not your home survives. It really comes down to physics. And I saw new homes that survived because they had the home hardening and defensible space as required. And I saw really old homes that survived because they chose to use concrete as their landscape. Didn't really look great, but from a physics perspective, it worked out. So in a fire siege, particularly in our county, there are 70 staffed fire stations. Contra Costa Fire has roughly 41 of those, and the remainder come from all the other agencies. So, roughly 70 engine companies within this county. They will be easily overwhelmed by a large fire. There will not be enough firefighters to attend to and to protect every structure in a wind-driven firestorm. And if we think that, well, it probably won't happen here, I don't think anybody ever thought it was going to happen in Lahaina either, but it did. So I think it's incumbent on all of us to take heed of all the information that's been discussed today, and do what we can to make our homes as impenetrable as possible against ember intrusion, against fire impact. Uh, that is how you stand the best chance of saving your home, saving everything that's within your home that's valuable to you. It may help with insurance, it may not, but it will do something to combat the physics that will come down on your house, on your property, in case there is an actual fire incident. So, like I said, physics has everything to do with it. Luck has very little to do with it. And look forward to getting into some of your questions here. So I'm going to open up the Q&A panel here. And there was a question. Well, they seem to be getting sort of cut off. So, all right, let me back up over here on the chat. So
they're all in the chat.
okay, yeah, the Q&A one doesn't seem to have a lot. All right, so this is a question with regards to insurance. And for the last several years, my homeowner's policy did not go up, or if it did, it went up by less than 5%. On my renewal, which is coming up in March, or was in March, my homeowners went up by 33%. I have it bundled with my auto and umbrella policies. I've not had a claim in over 10 years. Should I shop around or stay put? I am with the Hartford, and I think there was some later information about having a current $5,000 deductible chosen, and not looking to go up to the $9,000 deductible. So I'm going to give that one to Steve to help us kick this off.
Thank you, Chief Broschard. Number one, I just have to tell you, I'm constantly blown away and just awed by the professionalism and the expertise of our fire service professionals, as evidenced on this call today and in so many other settings. And I'll just say too about United Policyholders, the group that Emily represents. It is a first-class consumer service organization, and it's really it's just a privilege to work together on these issues. The best advice is probably the oldest advice, and that is it always pays to shop. On every renewal, it is prudent to see what competitive quotes, if any, may be available. Now, I'll tell you the honest truth. I say that I've had the same insurance agent for probably 30 years, and I never shop because I trust my agent and I know what markets that agent has. But it's always very helpful to shop. It's really hard to respond to the specifics of the question that were presented because there are so many reasons that there could be a premium jump. And frankly, it may be a good deal to keep, but it's absolutely worth shopping. The one other point that I wanted to make about shopping, and a critically important thing for every homeowner to know, Emily made reference to the deck page on the FAIR plan. But every policy has a declarations page or a deck page. And one of the data points, which is one of the most important data points, is what's known within the insurance industry as the coverage A amount. That is the insurance company's estimate of how much it would cost to replace the house if it burned to the ground, if it was totally destroyed, And the fact of the matter is that most of the software programs that are utilized to determine that coverage A amount are inadequate. They produce numbers that are too low. So it's critically important for homeowners to look at that coverage A amount, to ask their insurance company or their agent how that amount was determined, and to make sure that it is adjusted on a periodic basis. I can tell you my own homeowners, I live in San Francisco, my own homeowners insurer automatically adjusts the number up every year where it's appropriate to do so. And I've looked very carefully at that myself. But everything flows from that coverage A amount. But again, the best advice is shop. And the last thing I'll say is, and Emily made, I believe, reference to this. If you are coming up on a policy renewal deadline, don't miss that deadline. Some insurance companies are still trying to get off risks, and so you don't want to give them an excuse to non-renew you if you don't have to do that.
Steve, thank you. I'm going to move on to another topic and was asked for us to discuss some of the legislation and regulation that is before the California legislature, maybe the Board of Forestry, fire insurance issues, fire mitigation regulations. I know that there has been some resistance or delays, in my opinion, particularly given the executive order from the governor this time last year, and the Board of Forestry still has yet to act on some of the things that Chief Backman was discussing. So question is, what are the barriers? I'm going to turn that over to Chief Backman to start.
So the barriers with implementing Zone 0 have all been around public comment. But the Board of Forestry has held several public comment periods with draft proposals of what Zone 0 would look like. And the one I attended one up in Sacramento in person, and everybody in the room actually in that meeting was in favor of it, except for I think 3 people. But when the online portion opened up, it quickly split to about 50-50. And a lot of the online people that attended that meeting were not in favor of it. They requested that a meeting also be held in Southern California, so they did that. And that went on for hours, and the majority of that was also against the regulations that was originally proposed, and they're asking for exceptions. So currently how the original draft was submitted was in Zone 0, in that 0 to 5 feet, it was nothing combustible is allowed. There was then some request of, well, what about potted plants? And could we have a potted plant? So then some recommendations or some proposals identified that there could be some exceptions, but there would be size limits. There would be plant species types that would be limited to those potted plants. So it's really based on public comment that has delayed the implementation of Zone 0. So they're going to take another push at it in March at the next meeting to see if they can come up with a proposal that they think the Board of Forestry will pursue and move forward with. But they have taken hundreds of public comments from local fire districts, from the State Fire Marshal's office, from CAL FIRE, from experts in the field, Firewise communities, and residents that experienced fire during the Palisades and Eaton fire. So, tune in to that next meeting if you want to stay on top of what's going on. It's going to be in latter March. And we'll try and post some information on our website and out on social media that's also letting the community and letting everybody know. But we will be in attendance for that to stay on top of what this new proposal is going to be.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Next one, Marc, I'm going to ask you, how does one start a Firewise community, and how does a neighborhood get certified?
Well, pretty much every Contra Costa County fire district has some information on their website or a link to it. So there's a national program called Firewise USA. If you Google that, that kind of gets you rolling. But it doesn't hurt to have a bit of a guide. And I think just to give you an example, last night I had 14 people on a Zoom call, And we spent about 45 minutes discussing it. But essentially what you need to do is organize, decide your neighborhood size, and figure out what that is. And then you basically have two things you need to do, or three. One, you should have a risk assessment done by your fire district, and that basically helps you understand what your risk is. You prepare an application that documents what it is. And third and most important is you put together an action plan of what you're going to do over a 3-year period to do defensible space, home hardening, and what's my last one? Oh, emergency response. Anyway, and then there's some tips. You know, this is a community. Throw a block party. You know, invite the fire district to come out with their truck and get the kids out. And anyway, you really need the secret sauce is work together as a community and together educate yourself on actions you can take together to make your community safer.
I think that's well said. Firewise is a great way to actually build community, which is sometimes hard, but it does pay off, I think, in reducing risk. And you know, your neighbors need to be a part of that too. It's not just one house; it's the entire street, if you will. Maybe Emily, where can folks find information about non-combustible fencing materials?
That's a great question. So I think one of the premier resources right now is Fire Safe Marin. It has a booklet, and I can put it in the chat of examples of all of the pieces that need to be done to get your home hardened, right? And a non-combustible fence is one of those. It's the material, you have the material, and then you also choose who's going to install it, right? Those are two pieces. If you have wildfire safety fairs in your area, you know, I have a list of vendors that I've just met at other ones, and it's really great to have them out as well because they can, you know, pop up, you know, a little vendor space of a fence, and then homeowners can touch it and see it. I think once we start seeing pictures of what it actually looks like to have the exterior of your home with you know, zone 0 compliant, safe from wildfires, when we can see more examples of how it can be done creatively, thoughtfully, aesthetically pleasing, I think that will help us turn the tide of what we really need to do as communities to reduce our wildfire risk.
Thank you for that. And I know that we recently sent the staff down to, I think it was Orange County, to look at a brand new development. And I believe they had metal fencing that looked just like wood, but it was metal. So there's some new up and coming material out there. Oh, and Chris just put it up that community had. So you can sort of see from a distance what it looks like. All right, Steve, with the new regulations, insurance regulations enabling predictive modeling, will the insurance commissioner still have some power to keep the insurance companies from overstating the risk?
That's a great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. The commissioner's regulations vest immense discretion in the commissioner's office over whether or not to approve particular insurers' requests to use the new risk modeling. They have to make commitments that are enforceable by the commissioner to start writing more insurance. So everything depends, of course, on how the commissioner exercises that discretion. And it also makes critically important who we elect as the next insurance commissioner, because Mr. Lara is termed out after this year. So there will be an insurance commissioner's election in 2026. A couple of other things I'll mention in response to the question you asked, Chief, just a moment ago about other pending things. You know, one of the things that the Palisades and Eaton fires really just illustrated, it wasn't a new point, but it really hit it home, is that there is a kind of a shocking lack of empirical consensus around smoke damage and how you remediate it how you even measure it. And so what that has produced in litigation with homeowners is a battle of experts where lawyers for an insurance company hire one expert that says, go buy some 409 and spray it down. And then you have experts for the homeowner that say, you have to take all the sheetrock out of the house. And I'm not really exaggerating. That's kind of the way those battles go. And so the commissioner and others are working to create right now scientifically, empirically defensible standards that I think will have the potential, when they are completed, to provide better clarity for insurers about their obligations, but also better protection for consumers as well. In the meantime, we are concerned, frankly, about legislation in this session. The legislature just began the second year of its 2025-26 legislative session, and we're already seeing proposed bills that would require insurance companies, if they were selling property insurance, to offer full replacement cost coverage and do other things that have the potential to dramatically increase insurance companies' claims costs. And while from a consumer perspective, you can make the argument that that would be a good thing, the problem is that, again, in a rate environment where there's no guarantee that you can get adequate rates or timely rate decisions, our concern is that some of those proposals, while they're well-intentioned, could actually drive insurers out of the market, away from coming back to California rather than coming back in. So what happens in the legislature is going to be critically important to the success of insurance commissioners' sustainable insurance strategy.
Thank you for that, Steve. As we get towards the end here, this question comes up a lot, actually, from leaders within the community as well as in local government, and that is, how do you balance having shade trees to mitigate the summer heat and also deal with fire protection? Cutting down trees drives up cooling costs, yet is a fire hazard. I'll start off and say that I think the answer is it depends. One of the striking things I found in visiting the aftermath of the Eaton fire, albeit 3 months later, there were a lot of trees still very green and healthy, with completely burned out structures around them. As it turns out, what we're starting to see and what the science is starting to tell us is that the structures themselves in these conflagrations are becoming the fuel. It's not so much the trees. The embers are lodging themselves into the structures and creating fires. The trees themselves aren't necessarily the culprit. Now, I say it depends. Unkept palm trees, not a great idea. As I look at Marc Evans' background, I'm not sure exactly where that is, if it's Portugal or some other beautiful place, but Italian cypress trees, vegetative gasoline. They're a really bad idea. They're mostly dead inside. Other things like juniper bushes and other oily type vegetation are a bad idea. But I think there are plenty of non-flammable, to use a term, trees and vegetation can be used in a landscape plan and won't necessarily increase fire risk per se, and could increase shade. We're seeing that even in some urban environments where policy folks are trying to figure out what is the best strategy to not create a problem, but put enough trees in to create some meaningful shade. So I don't know, Chris, if you have anything to add to that at all.
Yeah, I'd like to add. So here's a picture of the Lafayette Walnut Creek shaded fuel break. And this is mitigation work that was done around Rossmore. And as you can see, we did not cut down a bunch of trees. We limbed everything up. So when you limb things up and you have a hillside like this, we're taking and reducing that ladder fuel, that if those grasses were to be burning, they're not going to catch the brush or the understory on fire to catch the trees on fire. It's going to be a slower moving ground cover fire that's just burning the grasses in the off season as it goes through there. So the idea is limbing everything up. Now, the issue is, as you get around homes, you want to make sure that that tree is ideally, that is in that area, not in the 0 to 5 feet, but in the 5 feet to 30 feet or farther away from your house, and it's limbed up. So it's just being strategic. And when we go through and I identify and we create these field breaks, we're not just cutting down the trees. We're limbing them up and getting rid of the brush and the understory.
Very good. Uh, I'll throw this out, and anybody on the panel can jump on it. But what is the impact of individual votes or voters on fire insurance policy and fire mitigation efforts? How can the individual voter out there, throw their weight around to support things, inform legislators, and so forth? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll start. So, insurance is regulated at the state level. So it's a statewide position for the insurance commissioner. And much of the so we have regulations, and then much of the legislative laws are your state elected officials. So, when it's the tried and true, contacting them, letting them know that your positions on these. What are you doing for wildfire safety in my area? What sort of bonds, and then you have local bonds as well. You have regional bonds that fund these efforts as well. So, keep your ears open when we're talking about disaster preparedness. There are wonderful ideas, but they also have to be funded. And so I'd love to hear from our fire officials too of what they think are the important positions that really then put money in so that they could do the work that they know needs to be done.
Yeah, I would agree that your vote is trying to get our legislator to allocate more funding to community-wide improvements, which we already have some, but there's a ways to go. And so whether it's fuel breaks or grants to communities working together or research on these different home hardening effects, what do you get the biggest bang for your buck? But I think that's an area that you might want to consider talking to your legislatures about supporting and helping us.
And different communities have done it in different ways. Sometimes, in terms of if you switch over to earthquake, we do have a program in California that helps people harden their homes for earthquake, and we're looking to fund that for wildfire preparedness as well, so that as we ask homeowners to take extra steps that do cost money, that it's not just putting it on their back to spend all the money to harden their home, but then their insurance is also going up, so they don't have the money. There has to be some sort of communal break there as well, and getting involved in your fire safe council, getting involved with your Firewise representatives, and seeing what's out there is one of the best things you can do, and getting your free home damage assessments as well. That'll put you off on the right foot.
So I'm going to take this last one. It was asked of me, but I was going to kind of dovetail off of Emily's comments. And from our professional standpoint, how much wildfire risk reduction work needs to be done in all parts of the county to reduce the wildfire risk. So wildfires are less likely to start or spread, and you don't get the structure-to-structure ignition, which is what we saw in Lahaina and Eaton and Palisades and so many other places. And so that we can start to see a shift or a change, and affordability of insurance and availability of insurance might come back. I would say that I don't have an answer, because we're looking at over 100 years of policy that needs to be turned around the other direction. If you look at large open spaces and parks, the proliferation of trees, depending on species, people planting large non-native groves of eucalyptus, things like that. There are so many decisions that, looking back with hindsight, are unfortunate, and they're very hard to unwind. I think where it comes down to is obviously engaging with your local electeds at a city level, at a county level, maybe even at a state level for funding, making sure that funding is available to things like state parks that really don't have a lot of funding to even take care of their own land, which is ironic. But what Emily mentioned about getting involved, it has to start somewhere. It starts in your home. It starts on your property. And hopefully it then moves to your neighbor and your neighborhood, where you can be a part of Firewise community or a fire safe council and start to take some action to protect your home, and along the way also redefine the landscape. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done. It can get quite frustrating for us as we run up against certain environmental restrictions or other things, or the irony of the state trying to push down regulations but not adequately taking care of their own land. It's infuriating sometimes. So I would say with this group for now, it starts with what you can do with your home to break the chain and not allow the structure to structure ignition to proliferate from house to house. And that's what today's session is all about, is giving you some information so that you can start to make some changes on the land that you control, and then hopefully work with your neighbors to take that and move it to next door and down the street. And then I think we will start to see some meaningful change. And hopefully we can get the insurance companies to give you all credit for all the work that not only you're doing, but the work that folks like Chris and other folks are doing from the local government perspective. So with that, we're at 2:25. I am going to say thank you so much to our panelists. Great information, great job, and turn this back over to Diane, if I have that correctly.
I think you're going to turn it over to Sean.
Sean, okay.
Thank you, Chief Broschard, and all of our guests. That was, I learned a lot today, and you gave me lots of food to think about. Just trying to manipulate my computer here. So on behalf of the League of Women Voters, Diablo Valley, the League of Women Voters, West Contra Costa County Library, and CCTV, I extend a genuine thank you to each of our panelists for being here today to offer such an informative and timely conversation on shock and awe, rising costs of California fire insurance. Thank you to Mr. Steve Young, Senior Vice President of Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of California, Miss Emily Rogan, a senior official with the United Policyholders, Fire Marshal Chief Backman, and Marc Evans, President of Safe Moraga Orinda with the Firewise Network. We really appreciate all that you brought to our attendees today. And a special thank you to you, our wonderful moderator, Chief Louis Broschard. Thank you so much for all the work you did in asking questions and acknowledging our guests. Thank you to Vanessa Cardenas for providing the Spanish interpretation of today's webinar. This service is jointly funded by the Contra Costa County Library and the League of Women Voters, Diablo Valley. And lastly, a warm thank you to you, our audience, for attending our first 2026 program today and for your important questions. They were very thoughtful, and I was happy about many of them because I was having some of those same questions. So you answered, our guests answered those questions well. And finally, this community conversation is being rebroadcast on CCTV on the following days. Community Conversations is also available on the YouTube channels of the League of Women Voters, Diablo Valley, and the Contra Costa County Library. It will be posted within a short period of time following the program. Please save the date for our next community conversation, the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI, and that's scheduled for March 19 at 1 o'clock. Community Conversations programs are a partnership between the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley and the League of Women Voters West Contra Costa County, the Contra Costa County Library, and CCTV. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization encouraging informed and active participation in government. And we definitely heard a lot about that today. The League never endorses or opposes candidates or political parties. We influence public policy through education and advocacy. We invite community members to join the League and support the work we do. Thank you so much.